Kana is a cannabis company that doesn't grow any cannabis. Instead, it sets itself up as a sort of weed middleman between 200 small farms and California dispensaries. It could mean the difference between preserving a decades-old local industry or watching it give way to big cannabis.
We are very simply a supply chain company that basically helps aggregate, grade, sort, process all of the small farm cannabis in the Emerald Triangle and centralizes everything post-harvest.
With its core farmers, this means they buy 100% of their crop outright and find an avenue to market for all of it, from top-shelf flower to shape. The Emerald Triangle is a region in Northern California made up of Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity counties, often referred to as the Napa Valley of weed. And one of the first farms Kana started working with is in Humboldt, called Huckleberry Hill Farms. Johnny Casali, the farm's second-generation owner, grew up in the Emerald Triangle's illegal industry. At 22, he got busted for growing 1,500 marijuana plants on his family's property. He spent 8 years in federal prison.
I started growing in 1978. I was 10 years old. My mom gave me my first 10 plants to grow by myself when I was 15 years old. And from then on out, I fell in love with it.
In 2016, he met Mikey and started the permitting process in order to start selling legally with Kana.
It takes all my time to grow even a 5,000 square foot cannabis farm, which this is. I don't have time to package my product. I don't have time to distribute my product. I don't really have time to trim my product. So it's really necessary for most of the small farmers in the Emerald Triangle to have a partnership.
Our business model is 100% dependent on the success of our farmers.
Kana only sells sun-grown weed only from the Emerald Triangle. But during Prohibition, the area was subject to Black Hawk helicopter raids, military convoys, and armed stings for the same reasons it's being praised now. By some estimates, the Emerald Triangle grows about 60 to 80% of the nation's illicit weed. And the war on drugs has died down since Ronald Reagan declared it in '71. But growers who choose not to participate in the legal market are still at risk of fines and prison time. But the risk can be worth it for small farmers who can't compete with big players in the legal market.
I think when I first came to California and first kind of exploring cannabis, I was just amazed and inspired by this ecosystem of more than 53,000 cannabis farmers.
But even for the region's legal farmers, not only is there still the very real threat of federal prosecution, companies are swooping in to make a profit from the once off-the-grid farmers. And layer that on top of the last 50 years, and you've got some serious distrust of anyone outside their tight-knit community. Just
like the gold rush and people coming to California and exploiting it, a lot of people have been going to the Emerald Triangle and just taking and taking and taking.
With Kana, Mikey's trying to do things that are good for people and business to help build goodwill, like providing loans to farmers just starting up.
Initially, I had met all of our farmers and I had visited every single one of those farms. Obviously, that model doesn't scale.
He now relies on a large farmer relations team, and even more so, the farmers he did get to know personally, like Johnny, to convince reluctant growers to work with Kana.
I returned back from jail. There was 50 people here waiting for me to help me get my life back in order. And so the true value of what I'm doing today is about my community and about the people that have supported me through this. And it's taken on a responsibility for me to not only bring myself to be a permitted farm, but also to help assist these people that are scared to come into the legal light.
Like a lot of large cannabis companies, the future of Kana will depend on federal legalization, whether it happens or whether it doesn't.
There's other states that have a lot of small farmers like Oregon and Washington, where our model can be successful. I would say that I'm going to really look closely over this next year and kind of towards the end kind of start thinking about, hey, is federal legalization really close on the horizon? Let's double down on infrastructure here. And if the answer is yes, we'll double down on infrastructure here. If the answer is no, then we'll start looking at other states.
The opportunity for national growth isn't limitless, though. Kana's business model can't exist just anywhere, and Mikey doesn't actually want it to.
I think we're not interested at all in going to like a state that doesn't have cannabis history or really is not going to be growing cannabis in the future and like setting up. Makes no sense when I believe the future is here in California.